All right, welcome to the briefing room, folks. Grab a seat. I'm super excited to have you all here today. You know, as your flight instructor, my main goal isn't just to teach you the mechanical stick and rudder stuff. It's to make sure you really get the aerodynamics happening around us up there. So in today's pre-flight briefing, we're diving into a maneuver you're going to use on pretty much every single flight, especially right after takeoff. Yep, we're talking about the climbing turn.
Now think about it. If you're just standing down on the ground, looking up at an airplane, carving through a gorgeous blue sky, it honestly looks like the simplest thing in the world, right? You're going up and you're turning. Easy peasy. But, man, once you're actually up in that cockpit, it's a completely different story. See, when you combine a climb and a turn at the same exact time, you're fundamentally altering your aerodynamics. You're inherently shrinking your safety margins, and the plane demands absolutely perfect coordination from you. Basically, you're asking the aircraft to do two highly energy-intensive things at once.
So, here's our flight plan for today's explainer. We'll kick things off with the forces in a climbing turn, then move into managing our performance limitations, followed by how to overcome the aircraft's natural flight tendencies, and finally, we'll walk through the step-by-step maneuver execution. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, Forces in a Climbing Turn, and the aerodynamic problem we face.
To really wrap our heads around the climbing turn, we first need to compare it to a standard straight climb. During a straight wings-level climb, your lift acts straight up. It directly balances the aircraft's weight, and your ability to climb relies entirely on your excess engine power. Okay, but the literal second you bank those wings to start a turn, you tilt that lift force. A big chunk of your lift gets diverted horizontally just to pull the nose around, and because of that diversion, your vertical lift inherently drops.
You can actually visualize that tilted lift vector working right here. Because you've tilted the lift to turn the airplane, its ability to support the plane's weight is suddenly, well, compromised. So how do we compensate? We have to increase our angle of attack just a little bit, which, as you probably guessed, cranks up our induced drag. And since your engine is likely already firewalled at maximum climb power, you don't have a magical reserve of throttle to tap into. Because of that extra drag and diverted lift, your climb angle and your overall rate of climb are naturally going to take a hit. Moving right along to Section 2, Managing Performance Limitations and Operating Within Safe Margins. Okay, so this number right here is absolutely crucial. 15 degrees. To keep a decent rate of climb going, your bank angle in a climbing turn literally has to be capped at a maximum of 15 degrees. It's that simple. Remember, the steeper you bank, the more lift you're tossing sideways, and the worse your climb performance becomes. So rule of thumb, keep those climbing turns shallow. And hey, speaking of limitations, I need to give you a golden rule for your own safety. Turns should be completely avoided when you're climbing at your maximum angle of climb. Why? Well, a max angle climb is already happening at a super low airspeed just to clear whatever obstacles are in front of you. And like we just talked about, throwing a turn into the mix spikes your induced drag and actually raises your stall speed. If you try to turn during an already slow, steep climb, you are slicing into an incredibly, uncomfortably thin safety margin.
Which brings us to Section 3. Overcoming natural flight tendencies, or basically, how to fight the aircraft's physics.
Up there in the climbing turn, you're going to be fighting three main aerodynamic battles. First up is airspeed loss. Because you don't have any extra juice in the engine to add, the airplane naturally wants to slow down. That means you've got to slightly lower the nose to keep your target airspeed nailed. Second is the slipstream effect. When you're climbing at high power but low airspeed, the propeller slipstream just hammers the tail, which means you have to get on that rudder to keep the plane perfectly balanced. And third, the aircraft actually has this sneaky desire to overbank, meaning it wants to roll way further into the turn than you actually commanded.
And man, this brilliantly shows exactly why that overbanking happens. Just look at the flight paths of the two wings. During a climbing turn, your outer wing is actually sweeping through a longer horizontal distance than the inner wing. It's slicing through the air faster, and it has a larger angle of attack. More speed plus a higher angle of attack means that outer wing is generating way more lift than the inner one. That unbalanced lift naturally tries to flip the aircraft into a much steeper bank. You have to actively fight that off.
But hey, the good news is you definitely don't have to sit there doing complex physics equations while you're flying. You really just have to look outside. This is exactly what your view out the windshield is going to be. By constantly checking the horizon, you naturally fight off that overbanking tendency. You use your own eyes and that visual reference to hold that perfect 15-degree bank and keep your pitch attitude exactly where it needs to be. So keep your eyes outside the cockpit.
All right, let's wrap this up with Section 4, Step-by-Step Maneuver Execution, taking it from theory straight to the cockpit.
What we have here is the complete procedural flow of the maneuver. You can clearly see how we kick things off in a nice, stable, straight climb, transition super smoothly into the turn while keeping an eagle eye on our airspeed and bank, and then anticipate our rollout to get back to wings level flight. So let's actually break down exactly what your hands and feet are going to be doing during each of these phases.
We're going to execute this in 4 precise steps. Step 1. Prior to entry, make sure your climb speed is perfectly dialed in, your climb power is set, and the aircraft is nicely trimmed. Look outside and literally pick a physical point for your rollout reference. Step 2. Entering. Smoothly roll into the turn, but cap it right at that 15-degree maximum. Step on the rudder so that balance ball stays perfectly centered, drop the nose just a hair to hold your airspeed, and then add a touch of back pressure to guide the nose through the turn. Okay, step 3, maintaining. This is where you really go to work. Keep that overbanking tendency in check with your ailerons, keep stepping on that rudder for balance, and, most importantly, use your elevator to lock in your airspeed. Finally, step 4, rolling out. You want to anticipate your rollout point by about 1/3 of your bank angle. Smoothly roll off the bank, keep that rudder balanced, and gently raise the nose back to your standard straight climb attitude.
Look, if you take only one single thing away from this briefing today, please let it be this golden rule. Throughout this maneuver, maintain airspeed with elevator and accept the lower rate of climb. Seriously, never ever try to yank back on the stick to force the plane to climb faster while you're in a turn. All you're doing is bleeding off precious airspeed and practically inviting a stall. Prioritize your airspeed, protect your energy, and just accept that your climb is going to be a little sluggish. It's totally fine.
All right, as we wrap up here and head out to the aircraft, I want you to chew on this for a second. If you're climbing out over a tall line of trees at your absolute maximum angle, you're flying at your lowest safe speed, and you suddenly decide to just yank the plane into a turn, what exactly happens to your safety margin? Think about the tilted lift, that nasty induced drag, and the spike stall speed we literally just talked about. Keep all of that front of mind, respect the physics of the airplane, and let's go have an awesome, safe flight. I'll see you out on the tarmac.